Hey everyone, it's Strange Michael. I hope you're doing well today. I have a review for a movie tied to a cartoon that I love deeply. I've never seen this movie before. It's tied to a cartoon called Ed, Edd, and Eddy that I love deeply. I just reviewed it for 50 minutes just before this video, so in case you're looking for a complete series, including the specials review of that set, well, I've got it. You can go look it up. But anyway, as many of you know, around November, October last year in 2022, Cartoon Network, Warner Brothers, whoever, put out a 30th anniversary box set for two cartoon series. That's Ed, Edd, and Eddy and Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. Now, I've always been a massive Ed, Edd, and Eddy fan. I loved this show. I talked about a lot of my childhood stories with my friends and whatever on that review, in case you want to find out more about me or if you give a shit. Anyway, I never knew there was a movie. I never knew there was a movie until that set came out. I looked on Amazon's reviews for that box set as my wife and I drove home that day when I got that box set, the quote-unquote complete series, which isn't really complete, it's a fucking lie. On the way home, I read a little bit online on Amazon some of the reviews for that complete series. I say that with quotation marks, in the air, above your head, or the microphone, something like that. Anyway, the complete series is a lie. There's a bunch of TV specials that were outsourced to a different animation company that are not included in that set, nor is this movie. Now, the movie is kind of considered the definitive end of the cartoon, of the original show, and I can kind of see where people are saying that, but frankly, even though I think everything should have been included in the complete series set, including this movie, it kind of is not really a big deal. And I say that because it's not really that great of a movie, if I'm being honest with you. I'm fairly certain it's a TV movie because IMDb says TV movie. This particular film came out in 2009, I assume about a year after the 2008 ending of the original show. So this is on the 10-year anniversary, maybe not the day of, but the year of this show existing. The show started in 1999. Yes, that long ago. I had known about Ed, Edd, and Eddy for so long, and did not know until I read the Amazon complete series reviews that said that this movie wasn't included, and I was like, what the fuck are these people talking about? Anyway, the movie is called Ed, Edd, and Eddy's Big Picture Show. And it has nothing to do with, like, pictures in an album. It's just Big Picture Show. Like, back in the day, they would have, they wouldn't call movies movies. They were pictures, or pictures, as they would sometimes call them on Red Letter Media. Anyway, movie's about an hour and a half long. And I'd never seen it. I really didn't know what to expect with this show, this movie, because as you know, the TV show typically is a half an hour, time frame. It's usually split into like two 12-minute long episodes into one half an hour section of TV each day, right? That's all you really had. So I was like, what could you possibly take about a group of kids scamming other kids in the neighborhood in their cul-de-sac they live in a suburb and make it an hour and a half long? Well, they made it into a road trip movie. Yes, a kid's road trip movie, which, to be fair, I had never seen an original cartoon like Codename Kids Next Door, Camp Lazlo, anything like that from Cartoon Network, even Johnny Bravo, which kind of did that with some Christmas specials of his, but they weren't movies, they were like 30-minute episodes. I have never really seen any of these old cartoons do anything like that for Cartoon Network. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm missing something, maybe I'm forgetting something that's very obvious right there in my brain or my face, but I don't remember any show doing that. Now, Ed, Edd, and Eddy's Big Picture Show, from the first few, maybe 10 minutes of the movie, I was like, something is fucking weird and dark about this movie. I won't have any spoilers here, as many of you know, even if the review's like 20 minutes long or even 50 minutes long, like my original TV show review for this show was. It won't have any spoilers. It won't. I'm trying to avoid that for the sake of the audience. I think a lot of you might not know this, like this movie, for example, existing. You can watch it on Amazon Prime, but you can't really see it anywhere else. You can just see it on Amazon Prime at the current moment this is being recorded, which is where I watched it at, because it's not in my box set. Now, Ed, Edd, and Eddy's Big Picture Show, in the first 10 minutes, like I said, it's kind of creepy and weird and dark. We have all of these shots of the cul-de-sac as the credits roll, where there's no one around. None of the kids, none of the playful, cutesy music we always had. Nothing like that. And then we come across, like, Ed and Eddy and Double D, the three friends with all the same names, that are all in panic mode. They're all packing their stuff, putting them in suitcases. Double D's writing this weird suicide note to his parents, telling them he's so sorry about what he did. We go most of this movie not knowing what Ed, Edd, and Eddy did or why they're on the run. Yes, the road trip movie we have here are the three of them running the hell away from all the other kids in the suburb, like Naz, Kevin, mainly Kevin, Rolf, Sarah, Jimmy, who didn't really know anything was going on. They got sucked into this in their own adventure. The Kanker sisters get sucked into the adventure with Jimmy and Sarah. Kind of a weird team up there. Johnny's involved in his weird melon head superhero costume, kind of a farewell to that in this movie. Johnny's hunting down Ed, Edd, and Eddy in his own separate way by himself with Plank. I guess he's not by himself, in his brain at least, because he is a schizophrenic. Then you have Sarah and Jimmy and the Kanker sisters going after Ed, Edd, and Eddy together. Kind of because the Kanker sisters want them to. You have Kevin and Naz teaming up and kind of having like a weird romance story in the movie of them kind of falling in love, mainly with Naz having a thing for Kevin, Kevin having a thing for his bike. Very bizarre. They're on a trip together trying to go find Ed, Edd, and Eddy and beat them up. And they have like this weird biker relationship. Naz starts wearing like a bandana around her head because whatever scam that Ed, Edd, and Eddy pulled on all these kids this time that apparently was the worst one they had ever pulled on these kids ever in all of the scamming history for 8 years that we've watched. Apparently whatever they did was the worst ever. Naz got her hair buzzed, basically. So now she's wearing a bandana to cover that up to look cute for Kevin. It's kind of cute, kind of funny for this show, for her to do something like that. Because really, we don't get a whole lot of Naz actually having a character, aside from being kind of laid back in the show. They never really do anything with her, even though she kind of seems to have a thing with Kevin, as a like crush type of thing. In this movie, they really go full force of trying to develop that. With her, at least, not so much Kevin. And then Mr. Rolf is on the hunt for Ed, Edd, and Eddy. And that's really fun, too. Watching his little misadventures with Wilbur, his pig. It's fun. That portion of this is fun. But where in this road trip are Ed, Edd, and Eddy heading is the big question here. Well, they basically just ran away. They basically got together, they ran away after what this scam did to these other kids, how they can tell these kids are going to try to kill them, basically. They run like hell. And with that being said, at some point during their running away, maybe the first 30 minutes of the movie, Eddy decides they're going to go try to find his big brother from back in the day that we've seen reference after reference to over the years. And we find out a lot about Eddy's big brother in this movie. I don't know if they ever gave a name, I don't remember. It's been a few weeks since I watched this movie, just so you know, because I finished up the show about a month ago, watched the movie immediately after. Loved pretty much everything. The show is phenomenal, I love it deeply. You see a lot of people nowadays recommend things like Steven Universe, for example, to adults, to people who have never seen that. And I haven't seen it myself. I'm not going to critic or make any kind of comments on that, but I would say something like Ed, Edd, and Eddy is so much more clever and funny and creative than what people give it credit for. And I think adults that have never seen this could watch it. Kids who have never seen it could watch it and really enjoy it. The show, that is. This movie is more for the die-hard fans than people who haven't seen the show before. Obviously. It's a movie ending like a 10-year run of a TV show that a lot of people loved. It's one of the Cartoon Network greatest hits of all time, in my opinion, one of their best creations ever made. One of the best cartoons, probably my top 10 of all time. Possibly even my top 5, frankly, because of how much I love this. But this movie, it's kind of dry. I didn't laugh as much as I thought I would. There's some really good jokes in here. But there's a lot of subplots as a road trip movie of going to like an abandoned factory where they think that Eddy's brother apparently worked at one point. There's a lot of subplots like that, them stopping here and there. Then you cut over to like the other kids that are going in their different Mad Max type of groups, hunting down Ed, Edd, and Eddy, stopping at these different places that Ed, Edd, and Eddy stopped at different points, right? That's really all the film is. But I will give it this, even though the movie itself is not that strong, not that engaging, not even really that entertaining, even though it has its moments. There's a siren coming. I just want to let you know that in case you start hearing squealing in the background. Yeah, here it comes. And he's gone. Anyway, even though this movie isn't phenomenal, I think it's good enough for what Ed, Edd, and Eddy had to be to end its show. I think it's good enough as a series conclusion, mainly because of the last 15, 20 minutes of this hour-and-a-half long movie. That third act, the finale, involving Eddy, Ed, Double D, all of that is really, really enjoyable. I liked it a lot. The voice acting in the entire film is really good. The art style, frankly, is probably sharper than it's ever been. Now, in the latter seasons of Ed, Edd, and Eddy, they did a lot of color swapping and changing around a couple of things, made it a lot darker because it's set during the fall instead of the typical show that you know, most of you know at least, of being set in the summertime with the kids not going to school. It may surprise you, you might not remember this, but the latter couple of seasons, the kids are back in school during the fall. They have jackets on, there's leaves blowing all the time. The animation looked amazingly sharp at that time in the show, better than it ever had, even though I prefer the earlier versions of the show, or the earlier look of the show. But this animation on this movie is probably the definitively sharpest look it's ever had. And I think all of it's hand-drawn. I don't think any of it was CGI animation as far as I knew off the top of my head after a month of not seeing it. But even at the time, I remember being kind of surprised by no CGI animation. I mean, even now, with like Dragon Ball Super, for example, you have all 4 of the movies have so much CGI of the Dragon Ball Super series. You know, it's kind of embarrassing. I don't like that. I haven't seen the show much. I've started watching that now. Like, literally yesterday, I started watching Dragon Ball Super for the first time. But all 4 of the movies, we have, what is it, Battle of Gods, Resurrection F, or Resurrection of F. Then you have Broly, the remake thing, whatever it's supposed to be, which was really filled with CGI. Those first 3 films have a mixture of hand-drawn characters on completely CGI backgrounds, and that shit gets really disorienting. The older I get, the more I dislike that. Into the Spider-Verse was like that as well. I do not like that shit. But then the newest Dragon Ball Super movie was completely CGI. The animation, all of that. I reviewed that on camera on this channel, and I hated that movie deeply. I hate all the Dragon Ball Super movies. I think they all are boring as shit. They suck. Not seeing the show yet. But anyway. It was such a mistake to see animation go that route, and it's probably cheaper. That's probably why they do it. But the hand-drawn animation of this movie looks fantastic. I want to compliment it on all of those things, even if the movie isn't great, even if it's not really that good. For a TV cartoon movie concluding an old show that was so good, it's fine. The animation looks amazing for what it was at that time. The music is good as always, just so you know. That atmosphere in the beginning of this movie with the whole empty suburbs thing, and the whole creepy Dawn of the Dead, Left Behind Rapture feel to it, it was creepy, and it actually had some really good atmosphere. But boiling the finale of Ed, Edd, and Eddy down to a TV movie, road trip movie, it just feels wrong. But I don't really, on the other hand, I tried to think about what could you have possibly done with this show to conclude this? What could you have really made the movie into that wasn't a typical scam type of thing for an hour and a half? Frankly, they probably made the right move with making it a road trip movie. They probably made the right choice, I'll be honest with you. Does it mean that I like it? No. Does it mean that it's disappointing? Kinda, yeah. I'll be honest with you. I was kind of let down with the movie. I didn't really know what to expect going into it. I didn't read anything about it, didn't watch any reviews, knew nothing about this movie going in. Aside from being a massive Ed, Edd, and Eddy fan already and just watching the show right before this. All the specials, all of that. Which also, you can watch all of that on Prime too if you happen to have that. Not just this movie. At the current moment. But even aside from that, the movie was fine. It was just fine. It had a lot of great elements to it. A lot of really great things like the animation, the writing, I guess, to an extent, for what they were doing in the context of a road trip movie. It was fine. Was it really funny? No, not really. I'll be honest, it had the same problems that I have in the writing of the last couple of seasons of the show where they were back in school in the fall. A lot of that was not as funny as it could have been. It was kind of your typical cartoon cannon fodder. And it's kind of a shame to say that. I feel like that about this movie, too. Ed, Edd, and Eddy's Big Picture Show was kind of a letdown. But it's not a bad movie. I want to let you know that. It's not like, again, like the Dragon Ball Super movies, where they've just been fucking bad and people are in denial about it, plain and simple. It's not like that. It's just, this movie is kind of disappointing because it's a road trip movie. But there's really no other direction to go with it. And I recommend going into it knowing really nothing at all. The subplots, the stopping here and there at different locations, that gets kind of old pretty quick. But I don't hate the movie. I just want to make that very clear. If this came out on DVD, because it's not in the complete series box set for the 30th anniversary Cartoon Network and Warner Brothers and whatever, I would buy it. I would buy it because I want to own it. I love Ed, Edd, and Eddy. Why would I not buy it? But that doesn't save this. That doesn't save this movie from being disappointing. And just overall, it is. Anyway, with all that being said, do I recommend this movie, Ed, Edd, and Eddy's Big Picture Show, to you guys if you happen to be a big fan? Yeah, 100%. If you're a big fan, totally check it out. If you know nothing about this show, do not waste your time on it. You're not going to be into this, and this will not convert you into a fan at all. I really don't think. I think it would honestly make you dislike the show more and make you more reluctant to go check it out. I really do think that. I think it kind of harms the show, as a matter of fact. But what idiot is going to go check the movie out that finalized the whole thing? Who would do that? It's like watching an anime movie before ever watching an anime at all. Like having any kind of experience with any episode or character or anything like that. Bad idea. Most people wouldn't do that. When it comes to Ed, Edd, and Eddy's Big Picture Show, I'd recommend it to the right people, aka fans. And that's about it. If you haven't seen it, you might be in for a surprise. You might like it more than I did. And I hope that's the case, by the way. But overall, it's not going to be a great experience. It's just fine. Which, to me, is sometimes worse than bad. Because at least if it's bad, I can feel some kind of hate for it. But in this case, it's just fine. Kind of mediocre, if you will. Maybe some bad choices. I don't know. Anyway, have you seen Ed, Edd, and Eddy's Big Picture Show from 2009? Did you love it? Did you hate it? I'd love to hear all of your thoughts down in the comment section down below. Thank you all for watching. God bless you all, and goodbye.